Heave-ho, my lads, heave-ho. It's a long, long way to go. It's a long...
I built model aircraft. I was hot to be a fighter pilot. All I wanted to do was learn to fly an Army Air Force fighter plane. This was in '42, and so I went down and signed up at age 17. I flunked the test. I came home lower than a snake. I could walk under a snake's belly. I was despondent. I'm 4F. And my dad said to me, "You could always go to sea." I hadn't thought about going to sea. My dad went to sea when he was 13. So the United States Maritime Service had a recruiting station in Baltimore. And my dad found out where it was. And I said, you know, yeah, I'll, because I didn't want to be drafted into the Army and yuck. And I took my first ship out of Bayonne, New Jersey, across the river from, it was a Sun Oil tanker loaded with aviation gas. We went by convoy to Bristol, Wales, on the west coast of England. I made 2 trips, I think, on the same ship. I took a ship out of the hull, the Union hull. I was a deckhand. You can't get any lower than that. We went to Hampton Roads and made up a convoy. We were in the Mediterranean heading for Cairo. They peeled us off for whatever reason, and they took us up the Adriatic to Bari, Italy. We were there about 2-3 weeks offloading. The night of the raid, the first bomb went off about 7:30. I'm standing on the pier at the foot of the gangway going up on the ship, waiting for a couple of guys, and I hear an explosion behind me. And I thought, oh, what's that? And I turn around and look, and the second bomb goes off. Keep in mind, all the ships, they had bought a convoy in of about 25 ships. And they had no place to put them. So they lined them up, bow out, they dropped their hook, their anchor, and paid out chain and tied their stern to the seawall. They were stacked not broadside against the seawall, but and the stern. These fighters or bombers came in by surprise. Everybody is offloading cargo, and the harbor is lit up like a church. What I did was run up the gangway. That was kind of an automatic reaction. We had a gun crew, but they were short-handed, and so I was assigned to one of the machine guns, 20 millimeters. The gunner and I would be in the gun tub. My ship was not damaged, or we had holes in us from shrapnel, pieces of ships blowing up. We had 200 tons of penolite, which is a high explosive, in one of the holes, and the mate had me, Broll, yes sir, and I go with him. The penolite was on fire in the hole. Now, when they turned the pump on, they had to get steam up and turn the pump on, and the water come out of the fire nozzle I'm holding. And I displayed water down in the hold on this burning. It looked like Roman candles going off. It was purple and red, and yellow. Some of the casts ruptured. I don't know what ruptured them, maybe the shock waves. Luckily, it didn't go off because I wouldn't be here. Barry would be 3 times the size. The only rated Barry, we logged them in the logbook about 7:30, and they rated a half hour, and they went away. But the rest of the night was the nightmare, because all these ships, one would burn and blow up, and it would catch the next one afire. They self-destroyed each other. The John Harvey was a Liberty ship with mustard gas on it. Aerial bombs, I was told, and I don't know the accuracy of this, is scuttlebutt, but there were 250, 200-pound aerial bombs loaded with mustard gas. Now, she got hit, the Krauts dropped the bomb on her, and I was told she blew up and lost all hands. Of course, that spread the mustard gas all over the harbor. During the night, my gunner and me went across the pier, and the survivors that were swimming up the harbor from the exploding ships, we pulled maybe 3, 4 guys out of the water. And so I went in the water on the south end of the pier up to my belt line, belly button. And he did too. But there were other guys. We weren't just alone. We didn't know that there was mustard gas. I've read a report where almost 2,000 guys died that night. And they didn't know. They didn't die that night. They ingested mustard gas, is a blistering agent. And when they got them to the hospital or the aid station, they were suffocating. And for a week after the raid, they were dying from asphyxiation, and they didn't know why. They didn't tell them as I understand it, 5 or 6 or 7 days after the raid, finally they reported, well, the John Harvey is sunk and she had this mustard gas on her, and that's what's killing the men. When I got back to the States, I had blisters on my feet. And I go to a doc. We weren't veterans then, armed services. We were civilians. And so I didn't go to an Army doctor or a naval doctor. I went to my mom's physician when I got home, and I had these big blisters on the bottom of my foot. And they itched something terrible, and I would scratch them and spread them. They would open and weep. And everybody told me they were athlete's foot. Wash your feet more often and put Absorbing Junior on. They told me about nothing worked on my feet, except one day I used Clorox, and I soaked it in Clorox bleach in a paper towel and rubbed it on my feet, and the blisters finally went away. I joined this group, AMMV, about 3-4 years ago. I didn't even know before they were existing. They didn't make us veterans until 1985. That's 40 years after the war. Of course, I could have availed myself of home loans cheap, but my house was already paid for. I could go to college on the GI Bill, but I'd look funny as a 60-year-old man going into college with 18, 19-year-old guys or girls. And so I joined this group. They're working on some bills to present to Congress that would compensate us. I'm in agreement with that.
Let the sea roll high or low. We can cross any ocean, sail any river. Give us the goods and we'll deliver. Damn the submarine. We're the men of the